must have been enormous.
Mm-hmm. Now, my research for the vault, I actually went to Europe last year. I don't know if you went to Siena for the book. Yeah. And I went to Naples and saw one of the fun things in doing all the research for my books is I find out a lot of things I didn't know. And when I was looking at Naples, I found this obscure reference to tunnels underneath the city. And I didn't know there were any tunnels underneath there. And when I started researching, I found it's not just tunnels, it's an entire network of tunnels that they've said they've found 1 million square feet of underground chambers so far, and they think they find new tunnels and chambers every year when they're tunneling out the subway system.
Oh, wow.
And they think there might be another 25 miles of tunnels that are undiscovered. And they were all excavated by the Greeks and Romans back before the birth of Christ. And it was so that they could channel, both to channel water through these underground aqueducts to Naples, which is very dry, and also to get building materials. So much of Naples is built with concrete that they've created out of this material. And I thought that would be a perfect setting for some scenes in my book. And I also went to Germany because I wanted to feature a scene on the Autobahn. I have a car chase featuring a Ferrari on the Autobahn, and I thought, well, I have to go there and drive it myself to see what it's like. And I rented an Audi station wagon when I got there, and took it. And as you know, the Autobahn is the only freeway system in the world that has no speed limit on some of its segments. And so I took it out on the Autobahn and got up to 150 miles an hour, which is by far the fastest I've ever driven. And I thought I would be terrified when I was driving it, but actually I was just very, very focused. I think if I had been riding as a passenger, I would have, my fingers would have gone through the armrest. But as a driver, it was just, I was paying attention because, the road's coming by at more than 2 miles a minute. And occasionally I would have to slow down because there were cars in front of me, and I get down to 125 and I'm just cruising along like this. But yeah, I like to say now that the fastest I've ever driven is in a station wagon.
There you go. So when you were in Naples, just as a visitor, how was the experience? Because I've heard it can be pretty rough down there.
I was worried about it. I thought I was ready. I had my guard up. I thought I was going to have pickpockets and be robbed, and actually I felt very safe. It was, it's a beautiful city if you ever get a chance to go there. It's all these beautifully painted buildings and old structures from the Greek times and from medieval times. So and churches everywhere, and so it's an interesting jumble throughout history on things from 2,500 years ago to 500 years ago, and lots of really narrow streets with shops lining them, and great restaurants that you could sit outside and eat pizza. And I really like, and going to the underground tours. It's astounding how extensive they are, and most of it has really not been explored, either because there hasn't been an interest or because a lot of these tunnels are only accessible through private residences and churches, and a lot of them won't let people go down because they don't want people tromping through.
Right. Did they consider putting the garbage in the tunnels?
Well,
did that ever come up?
Yeah, they use a lot of the wells and tunnels to put garbage in.
Yeah, they better figure that out.
Yeah. Well, my sister just was there, and she said there was garbage all over the streets, but when I went there last year, they didn't have a garbage strike while I was there, so it was actually very nice, but she said it wasn't very pleasant with the garbage everywhere.
No, and you know why? Because
it's the Camorra.
It's the Camorra who controls the garbage.
Yeah, and can you, maybe they don't know as much about the Camorra as we do, but it'd be interesting to hear what you found out about them.
Well, what the headline news for me for writing this book is that the world is really run by criminal organizations. We have no idea, but there's a shadow economy that is what? I think a $2 trillion economy, I think that's what it is. Yeah. The fact is that all these bad guys do business with each other. So you have poppy growers in Afghanistan that are selling to distributors in southern Italy. Androgena, which is it's a clan of it's a crime family, probably 600 separate family units strong. They are they're up in the hills, and they live in an inaccessible environment, a lot like Afghanistan from a tactical point of view, where it's impenetrable to outsiders because they're joined together by ancient blood ties, and they speak this dialect, the southern dialect, that even northern Italians can't speak. And this clan is responsible for the distribution of cocaine in Europe, which is about a $38 million a year enterprise. And that's just one little pocket of what they do. So they distribute it. Meanwhile, you have the Colombians, you have the Mexican mafia, you have the Japanese, the Russians, the Albanians, right? And they all do business with each other. And there are Wired magazine did a fabulous piece on it's a map that shows all these connections, and we're talking about things like human trafficking, illegal goods. All of you with those Gucci bags, these are billion-dollar businesses, and of course, as we see in politics, it's all connected at the top. But so when you're dealing with a little tiny neighborhood of drug dealers, even here in LA or whatever, that's not who you're dealing with. You're dealing with a much larger global organization that's very, very hard to crack, and especially if you're the FBI without jurisdiction in these places. And so then all the legitimate law enforcement agencies have to pool together and get a sort of a coordinated view of it all. It's really complicated.
Did you read Gomorrah by Roberto Saviano?
Yes,
I read that as part of my research.
Yeah, me too.
And I was...
Killer.
I had no idea the mafia controlled so much of the economy in the Naples area. I mean, they control drugs, apparel, concrete, garbage, and pretty much everything down there has to go through the mafia. And we know a lot of, because of The Godfather, we think of the mafia as Sicily and the Cosa Nostra.
Right.
But that's just one part of it. Actually, the Camorra, I've heard, are even more vicious than the Cosa Nostra.
Yes, they are. Oh, yes, they are. Yeah, and it's even beyond. I mean, The Sopranos is accurate, very accurate, but that's like that's like the Cousins Club or something compared to the reach of these people. And Roberto Saviano, who wrote that, of course, is now in hiding. I don't know how he's ever going to live a normal life, because he's totally always under threat.
Yeah, I hope we're not going to have the same problem.